Turn to Part 1. Part 1. You will hear a supervisor giving instructions to a new worker called Maya on her first day at work. First, you have some time to read questions 1 to 6. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Hi, Maya. I'm Ethan, your team supervisor. Welcome aboard.
Hi, Nathan.
Actually, it's Ethan.
Oh, my apologies.
No worries. It happens all the time. People often get it wrong because of how it's spelled. It's Ethan, just in case you need to note it down.
Got it. I'll remember.
No worries. There are a few things you need to handle this morning, and then I'll walk you through your tasks for the day.
Sure, thanks. But the email I got mentioned I should check in at the front desk with my appointment letter and collect my ID badge.
Correct. You'll need the badge to access the staff areas in the store. Once you've sorted that, I'll take you to the staff lounge. You can leave your belongings in one of the lockers there. Just pick any empty one.
Will I get a key for it?
Yes, you will. Just make sure you don't lose it. At the end of the day, leave it in the locker door for the next person.
Understood.
You'll also need to visit Human Resources and meet Chloe. She's really good at sorting things out.
I was told to bring my identification document. I think the HR needs to note down the number.
That's right. It could either be your passport or an ID card.
I have my passport with me.
Perfect. Chloe will also give you a uniform. They have plenty in different sizes, so let her know what works for you. I won't accompany you to HR as I have to check something in the produce section.
Is the HR office near the staff lounge?
Not quite. The lounge is on the first floor and HR is on the second floor. You'll find the stairs just outside the lounge.
Got it.
After HR, come and find me near the produce aisle.
I'm excited to start.
Let me give you my phone number in case you need to contact me. Do you have your phone handy?
Yes, go ahead.
It's 0423 666 512.
Got it. Oh, wait, did you say 666 521?
No, it's 666 512.
All good now, thanks.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to read questions 7 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 7 to 10.
All right, Maya, your tasks today are in the bakery, the deli counter, and the seafood section. First, in the bakery, you'll check the expiry dates on the bread and cakes. If the date is today's, you'll need to update the price label.
What if some items have expired already?
Those will need to be discarded, but that rarely happens since we check daily. Use an orange sticker to mark items that have been discounted.
Okay.
After that, head to the deli counter.
Will I be working directly with food?
Not today. Your role will be more about assisting the team.
Okay, I understand.
You'll find cardboard boxes stacked near the counter. Beneath them are plastic containers. If stocks are low, you'll need to restock from the supply room.
Anything else there?
Yes, you'll need to wipe down the work area and the sink. Cleaning products are kept nearby, but don't handle knives. You'll need specific training for that.
What should I do if I find any?
Just leave them and inform someone else to deal with them.
Got it. Thanks for clarifying.
Lastly, the seafood section. Clean the service area and the scales thoroughly.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes, the ice used for displaying fish needs replenishing as it melts. You'll need to get more from the freezer.
Will I need to wear anything special?
You don't need a hat since you're not interacting with customers directly, but always wear thermal gloves when handling items in the freezer.
Got it. Thanks, Ethan.
You are welcome.
That is the end of part 1. You now have some time to check your answers. Now turn to part 2. Part 2. You will hear the coordinator of a children's literature festival giving details about it on a community radio show. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 16.
Hello everybody! The annual Children's Literature Festival is back, and here to tell us all about what's planned this year is the event coordinator, Sarah Collins. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. It's great to be here. We're so excited about this year's festival, which, as always, will feature 5 days full of lively activities for children, with authors from across the country taking part. To give you a taste of what's happening in the workshops, let's start with Brave Heroes. This is a special event designed for children with visual impairments. It's led by well-known author Daniel Carter, who is visually impaired himself. Next, we have Create and Imagine, which is a hands-on workshop hosted by award-winning illustrator Lisa Bennett. She'll take the children on a fascinating journey through different worlds, with a chance for young participants to act out scenes from their favourite books. I invite you to find the safety of a secure, non-destructive place, and a way to also engage the child in self-expression. Building Bridges is tailored for children aged 12 to 14 and focuses on understanding how to form and maintain friendships. Participants will discuss characters in popular novels and compare their experiences to those of the characters. Words Matter is part of our mental health series. This workshop uses creative writing to explore feelings of isolation among young people. A recent study showed that children can feel lonely even when surrounded by family members. The next workshop, Shining Moments, will be led by Mia Thompson, author of the best-selling story of the same name. The story, about a young boy visiting his grandparents in South Africa, recently won the prestigious Coral Medal. Mia will inspire children to write about moments of happiness in their lives. Finally, Rhythms of Roots is a workshop based on the beautifully illustrated book by Jasmine Powell. It highlights the cultural importance of African traditions and teaches children about their heritage. This workshop will include a fun musical activity where participants get to play traditional African drums.
Before you hear the rest of the speech, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen carefully and answer questions 17 to 20.
Thanks, Sarah. That all sounds amazing. Do you have a personal favourite book that you'd recommend to our listeners?
That's a tough one, but I definitely suggest checking out Steps Across the Border. It's an incredible debut novel by a new author, Fatima Hassan. The story is written as the diary of a teenage boy who moves from Syria to start a new life in Canada. It highlights the challenges of adapting to a new country and language, as well as the emotional struggles of immigration. What's surprising is that, although the topic is serious, the book is incredibly funny. I found myself laughing out loud at some of the situations the boy describes. The illustrations are simple black and white sketches that add to the humour, and there's a glossary at the end of each chapter with new English words the boy learns daily. It's a great tool for expanding young readers' vocabulary.
That sounds perfect for kids. Do you have any advice for parents on how to encourage their children to read more?
Yes, I do get asked this often. With so many distractions these days, it's hard to get kids to focus on reading. My first tip is to share books with your children. Read aloud to them, even when they're old enough to read by themselves. It's a good way to introduce them to more complex stories and improve their vocabulary. If you can't do that, encourage them to listen to audiobooks. Often, children will want to read the physical version of a book they've enjoyed listening to. Another tip is to diversify what they're reading. Many children stick to the same type of story, which can get repetitive. Librarians are great at recommending books and authors to introduce children to different genres.
Thanks, Sarah. That's really useful advice.
You're very welcome.
That is the end of part 2. You now have some time to check your answers. Now turn to part 3. Part 3. You will hear a trainee biology teacher, Maria, discussing her teaching experience with another trainee, Ben. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hi, Ben. How's it going with your teaching practice?
Hey, Maria. It's been tougher than I expected, but I've got a really enthusiastic group of students. How about you?
Not great. I'm having difficulty with my Year 11 biology class.
I see. Are they like misbehaving or something?
No, not really. They're generally well behaved, but they just don't seem to care about biology. It's discouraging. They listened to me in class, and the test scores last week weren't bad, but there's no real interest or excitement about the subject.
I see.
I have to come up with an experiment for them to do as part of my teaching assignment. I was thinking about something involving their eating habits, maybe getting them to keep track of their meals, maybe getting them to keep track of their meals and linking that to their physical well-being, you know?
Let's think. So, you'd have the students record what they eat. That's fine, but you'd also need access to detailed health information like their medical records, and I doubt parents or guardians would agree to that. Privacy concerns could be an issue. Even if you manage to get all the data, the process would probably be quite challenging.
That's very true.
Have you considered doing an experiment with animals instead?
Wouldn't that upset the students?
Not necessarily. The animals wouldn't have to be harmed. For instance, you could control their diets and observe any changes.
Would I need official approval for that?
Yes, you'd have to submit a proposal outlining the experiment and fill in a form, but the process isn't too complicated.
But if we find that a specific diet impacts the health of animals, it doesn't necessarily mean it would have the same effect on humans, does it?
That's true, but no experiment is ever going to produce perfect or universal results. That's just the nature of science.
Fair enough. So, which animals would be suitable for an experiment like this? Mice?
Yes, experimental mice would be ideal. They're bred specifically for research purposes. So, what's your focus going to be?
Something related to nutrition. Maybe I could explore the effects of different dietary supplements, like additional iron or protein.
That might be too broad. Why not focus on the effects of one specific supplement, like sugar, on the mice's health?
Or perhaps I could investigate whether mice can regulate their own eating habits.
For example, if you give them access to extra sugar, do they consume it or do they avoid it?
Exactly. Then, as a follow-up, I could introduce another variable. For instance, I could allow some mice to exercise by using a wheel, while others remain inactive.
Or you could modify the experiment by testing different food types or using genetically different mice. But I think the exercise idea is more compelling.
I'll think about that some more. Thanks for the suggestion.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 26 to 30.
So, can I walk you through how I might run the experiment where mice are given extra sugar?
Of course, I did something similar during my degree.
Great. How many mice would I need?
I'd say around a dozen, and make sure they're all young. Avoid mixing young and older mice.
Got it. I'll split them into 2 equal groups, 6 in each. How would I identify the groups? Maybe I could tag them somehow or mark them?
You could use food color to mark one group. It's safe and won't harm the mice.
Perfect. Each group would go into its own cage. Group A, the control group, would get standard mouse food. I assume I can buy that easily?
Yes, it's sold in pellet form.
And Group B would get the same, plus the sugar. Should I give them plain sugar?
Maybe mix it with something like cereal.
Good idea. Then I'd weigh the mice regularly, maybe once a week, using an electronic balance.
Yes, but to prevent them from escaping, you'll need a weighing chamber. It can just be a simple plastic box with holes in the lid.
Great. After collecting the data, I'll calculate the average weight gain for each group and determine the standard deviation. Then I'll see if there are any significant trends. This could be really engaging for the students.
Definitely. I think they'll love it.
That is the end of part 3. You now have some time to check your answers. Now turn to part 4. Part 4. You will hear part of a lecture on the topic of urban air pollution. First, you have some time to read questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we're discussing urban air pollution and its impact on health and the environment. Air pollution in cities is caused by a variety of sources. One of the most significant contributors is emissions from vehicles. Exhaust gases from cars, buses and trucks release harmful substances into the air, such as carbon monoxide and nitrogen oxides. Other sources include industrial activity, where factories discharge pollutants into the atmosphere during manufacturing processes. Construction sites are another contributors into the air. Finally, the burning of fossil fuels for energy, especially coal and oil, is a major driver of urban air pollution. Now, let's consider the effect of air pollution. Firstly, it has serious implications for public health. Inhaling polluted air can damage the lungs and aggravate respiratory conditions like asthma. Long-term exposure is also linked to heart disease. What's particularly alarming is that fine particulate matter in the air, also known as PM 2.5, can penetrate deep into the lungs and even enter the bloodstream. Another significant impact is environmental damage. Urban air pollution contributes to acid rain, which harms plants, aquatic systems and buildings. Polluted air also releases excess greenhouse gases, which trap heat in the atmosphere and accelerate global warming. This not only affects ecosystems, but also increases the frequency of extreme weather events. There are efforts underway to mitigate these effects. Many cities now monitor air quality in real time using advanced sensors. Some have introduced policies to restrict vehicle emissions by encouraging the use of electric vehicles. Green spaces, such as parks and rooftop gardens, are also being developed to improve air quality. One particularly interesting study on the effects of air pollution was conducted by researchers at Brighton University. They examined how air pollution in urban areas impacts tree growth. Trees are critical for cities as they absorb carbon dioxide and provide shade, but pollutants can interfere with their natural processes. The researchers focused on birch trees, which are commonly found in urban areas. They placed the trees in two environments, one with clean air and the other exposed to pollutants like nitrogen oxides and particulate matter. The goal was to see how pollution affected the tree's ability to grow and produce leaves. The findings were striking. In the polluted environment, the trees had smaller leaves, and their growth was stunted compared to those in clean air. Additionally, the polluted trees exhibited higher stress levels, which was evident from the increased presence of harmful compounds in their tissues. Another observation was that soil quality beneath the polluted trees deteriorated. Pollutants in the air settled into the soil, increasing its acidity and reducing its fertility. This change in soil composition further impacted the tree's ability to absorb nutrients. In conclusion, the researchers emphasized the importance of urban greenery and the need to address air pollution to maintain healthy urban ecosystems. They argued that failing to do so could harm not only plants, but also the broader urban population. After all, healthy trees are essential for a healthy society.
That is the end of part 4. You now have some time to check your answers.